My in-laws insisted on planning our anniversary trip as their gift, then handed us the bill at the airport saying they thought we knew it wasn't really free. The receipt showed $12,847.33. 2 first-class tickets to Paris, 5-star hotel, private tours, and something called premium experience packages we'd never heard of. There must be some confusion, I stammered, staring at the numbers. Beatrice, my mother-in-law, clutched her pearls dramatically. Darling, surely you didn't think we'd actually pay for this ourselves. Her husband Reginald chuckled, adjusting his gold cufflinks. Young people today expect everything handed to them. My husband Dashiell stood beside me, pale and silent. 3 years of marriage had taught me that look. He'd rather die than contradict his parents. We can't afford $13,000, I said quietly. Well, Beatrice sighed, I suppose you could always stay home. Though we've already booked everything non-refundable, so the threat hung in the air. Pay or lose everything anyway. That's when I noticed the pattern. Every gift from them came with hidden costs. The wedding they insisted on planning. We'd been paying installments for 2 years. The house down payment they helped with, actually a loan at 15% interest. Even Dashiell's birthday party last year had somehow become our financial responsibility. This is fraud, I said, loud enough for nearby travelers to hear. Reginald's face darkened. How dare you accuse us of what? Telling us something was free when it wasn't. That's literally fraud. A gate agent approached, drawn by the commotion. Is everything all right here? Beatrice instantly shifted into victim mode. Our daughter-in-law is having an episode. She's been very unstable lately. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I've been documenting everything for months, I announced. Every fake gift, every hidden fee, every manipulation. The screenshots told the story. Text messages where they called things gifts, followed by invoices. Email chains proving they knew we couldn't afford their schemes. Bank statements showing how they drained our savings with their generosity. You've been planning this, I realized aloud, making us financially dependent on you. Dashiell finally spoke. Please don't do this here. Do what? Tell the truth? More passengers gathered, phones appearing. I'd become an airport spectacle, but I didn't care anymore. 3 years of marriage, and you've never once stood up to them, I continued. Even when they convinced you to take that job with your dad's company at half the salary you were making. Beatrice stepped forward. Young lady, you're being manipulated, controlled, financially abused. I finished. Yes, I am. The gate agent was taking notes. Airport security approached. This was escalating beyond family drama. I want to file a complaint, I told security. These people have been running a gift-to-debt scheme on us for years. Reginald tried to laugh it off. Officer, she's clearly having some kind of breakdown. But I wasn't breaking down. I was breaking free. I turned to Dashiell. Choose. Right now. Them or me. His silence was answer enough. I handed him my wedding ring and walked toward the exit. Behind me, Beatrice called out desperately. Wait! We can work something out! That's when I realized what had really been happening, and why they were so panicked. I stopped walking and turned back around. The crowd had grown larger, phones still recording. This wasn't just about money anymore. You're broke, aren't you? I said, my voice carrying across the terminal. Beatrice's face went white. Reginald grabbed her arm, but I could see it in their eyes. Terror. That's why you needed us to pay for everything. The wedding, the house loan, all of it. You've been using our credit to fund your lifestyle. I pulled out my phone again, scrolling through bank statements I'd been too trusting to examine closely before. The house down payment you helped with. That was a loan you took out in my name, wasn't it? The 15% interest you're charging us? That's what you're paying the bank. The gate agent stepped closer. Ma'am, are you saying they've committed identity theft? My hands shook as pieces clicked together. The wedding vendors. They kept calling me about overdue payments, but you said you'd handle everything. I looked at my husband. They used our information to book everything, then made us think we owed them. Dashiell's face had gone ashen. That's not... They wouldn't... But even he was starting to see it. How much debt are we in? I asked him directly. How much have they put us on the hook for that we don't even know about? We should discuss this privately, Reginald interjected, his composed mask finally slipping. No, I said firmly. We're discussing it right here, with witnesses. I opened my credit monitoring app, something I'd been too overwhelmed to check regularly. The number that appeared made my knees weak. $67,284 in debt across accounts I barely remembered opening. Jesus Christ, I whispered. The crowd murmured. Someone called it a scam. Another person mentioned they'd heard of this happening before. Ma'am, the security officer said, I think we need to involve the police. That's when Beatrice completely lost it. She's lying, she screamed. She's making this up because she's jealous of our success. But Reginald was backing away, his face gray. He knew I'd figured it out. How long? I asked him. How long have you been stealing from us? It's not stealing, he said weakly. We're family. Family doesn't forge signatures on loan applications. The words hung in the air like a bomb, because that's exactly what they'd done. I thought about all the times Beatrice had asked me to sign things, for the wedding planning, or for the house paperwork. Documents I'd trusted them to handle. Papers I'd signed without reading because they were family. My phone rang. Unknown number. Don't answer that, Reginald said quickly. I answered anyway. Hello? Is this Whitney Morrison? This is First National Bank. We've been trying to reach you about your overdue payment on loan account ending in 4721. I put the call on speaker. I'm sorry, what loan? The home equity line of credit you opened 6 months ago for $45,000. Your payment is 90 days past due. The airport terminal fell silent around me. I never opened a home equity line of credit, I said clearly. Ma'am, we have your signature on file, along with income verification, and that signature was forged, I interrupted. I'm standing in an airport right now about to file a police report for identity theft. I could hear typing on the other end. Ma'am, I'm going to need to transfer you to our fraud department. The crowd was openly staring now. Daschle looked like he might vomit. How much more? I asked him. How much more don't I know about? He couldn't meet my eyes. That's when airport police arrived. Someone in the crowd had called them. We have a report of identity theft and fraud, the officer said. I handed him my phone with the bank still on the line. They've been using my information to take out loans for 3 years. Beatrice made one last desperate play. Officer, this is a domestic dispute. She's having a mental health crisis. Ma'am, he replied. I can hear the bank representative on the phone. This appears to be a criminal matter. The next few hours blurred together. Police reports, bank calls, security footage requests. The airport fraud unit got involved because it had happened on airport property. Through it all, Daschle sat in a plastic chair, staring at his hands. Did you know? I asked him during a break between interviews. He shook his head. I thought they were just demanding. I didn't know they were committing crimes. He flinched. They convinced me to give them access to our accounts after the wedding. Said it would be easier for them to help manage our finances while we got established. My blood ran cold. They have access to our bank accounts? Had, he corrected quickly. I changed the passwords last month when I noticed some weird charges. What weird charges? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through bank statements. Expensive dinners, jewelry purchases, a payment to something called Monaco Luxury Travel. That's when I understood the full scope of it. They've been living off our credit while telling us we owe them money. The investigating officer returned with a thick folder. Ms. Morrison, we've contacted your banks and credit card companies. The preliminary investigation shows approximately $127,000 in fraudulent accounts and charges over the past 3 years. I sat down hard. $127,000. Most of it appears to be travel, luxury goods, and cash advances. There's also evidence of manufactured debt, loans taken out in your name, then money transferred to accounts controlled by the suspects. Daschle made a choking sound. The good news is that as victims of identity theft, you won't be liable for these debts once the investigation concludes. The bad news is that it's going to take months to untangle everything. I looked at my husband. Did you help them? No, he said quickly. I swear I didn't know. They said they were managing things to help us. I thought they were just particular about money. The officer continued. We've placed holds on several accounts and issued a bolo for the suspects. Are you planning to press charges? Yes, I said without hesitation. I need to think about this, Daschle said. Think about what? I snapped. They stole over $100,000 from us. They're my parents. They're criminals. We stared at each other across that waiting area. 3 years of marriage, and I was seeing my husband clearly for the first time. I'm pressing charges, I said to the officer. With or without him. Daschle stood up. I need some air. After he left, the officer sat down next to me. This is hard, she said, but you're doing the right thing. We see cases like this more than you'd think. Family members taking advantage of trust. How do I know what else they've done? We'll help you pull all your credit reports, contact all the major banks, freeze your accounts. It's going to be a process, but we'll get through it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is all a misunderstanding. We can fix this if you just calm down and think rationally. B, I showed it to the officer. They're contacting you directly now. That's witness intimidation. She made a note. Don't respond. Save everything they send. Another text came through. You're destroying this family over money. Think about what this will do to Daschle's career. R. Then another. We raised him better than to marry someone who would betray family like this. I screenshot each message and handed the phone to the officer. They're not going quietly, she observed. Good, I said. Let them keep digging their hole deeper. Daschle returned an hour later, red-eyed and pale. I talked to my sister, he said. They did the same thing to her and her husband 2 years ago. She thought it was normal family business management. How much did they take from them? About $30,000. She's been paying them back monthly, thinking it was a legitimate family loan. I closed my eyes. This was bigger than just us. There might be others, I said to the officer. She nodded. We'll need to interview other family members. This could be part of a larger pattern. My phone rang again. My sister this time. Whitney, what the hell is going on? Mom just called me crying, saying you're trying to put Daschle's parents in jail. They stole over $100,000 from us, Veronica. They've been using our credit to fund their lifestyle for 3 years. Silence on the other end. Are you serious? Dead serious. I'm at the airport with police right now filing fraud charges. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do? Yeah. Don't let them contact you. They're in full damage control mode now. After I hung up, Daschle looked at me with something that might have been respect. You're really doing this, he said. Yes, I am. Even though it means destroying my relationship with my parents. They destroyed it themselves when they decided to steal from us. He was quiet for a long moment. I should have protected you. Yes, you should have. I was so used to them controlling everything. I thought that's just how families worked. That's not how healthy families work. The officer returned with more paperwork. We've arrested them, she announced. They were still at the airport trying to board a flight to Monaco, where they'd spent our money on luxury travel. They had tickets purchased with a credit card in your name, Ms. Morrison. First-class seats to Nice with hotel reservations at the Hotel Hermitage. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course they did. The total cost of their planned trip was $23,000, also charged to your account. Daschle put his head in his hands. There's more, the officer continued. We found evidence in their carry-on luggage of other victims. Credit applications, bank statements, personal documents for at least 6 different people. 6 people? It appears they've been running this scam for years, targeting family members and close family friends. You might not be their first victims, but you're definitely not their last. The scope of it was staggering. An organized, long-term fraud operation disguised as family generosity. What happens now? I asked. They'll be arraigned tomorrow. Given the amount involved and the flight risk they just demonstrated, bail will probably be set high. The district attorney is treating this as organized fraud, which carries significant penalties. I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. The investigation will continue for several weeks, she added. We'll need you to work with the fraud departments at your banks and credit card companies. It's going to be time-consuming, but we'll help you through the process. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from Dashiell's sister. Dad just called me from jail. He says you're lying about everything and that he can prove it. I think I believe him. I showed it to Dashiell. Even now, he said sadly. Even with them in jail, she believes them over the evidence. Manipulation doesn't stop just because someone gets arrested. Another text came through, this one from a number I recognized as their lawyer. Ms. Morrison, I represent Reginald and Beatrice Thornfield. I believe we can resolve this matter without criminal charges if you're willing to discuss reasonable terms. I showed it to the officer. Don't respond to that either, she advised. Their attorney is fishing to see if you'll settle. The DA won't drop charges just because you ask them to. Not with this much evidence and this many victims. Good. Dashiell looked at me. Are you sure about this? Once we go down this path, there's no going back. There was no going back the moment they decided to steal from us. My family will never forgive you. Your family are criminals. I'm not looking for their forgiveness. He nodded slowly. What about us? What happens to our marriage? It was the question I'd been avoiding. I don't know, I admitted, but I know I can't stay married to someone who won't protect me from abuse, even if it comes from his family. I want to change, he said quietly. I want to be better. Wanting isn't enough. You had 3 years of chances to stand up for me, for us. I know. We sat in silence for a while, processing everything that had happened. The house, I said suddenly. If they took out a home equity line of credit, they put our house at risk. The officer overheard. The mortgage fraud unit will review all property-related loans. If any liens were placed against your property fraudulently, those will be reversed. What if we can't make the payments they committed us to? As victims of identity theft, you have legal protections. The banks will have to work with you on resolving fraudulent debts. My phone rang. The bank again. Ms. Morrison, this is the fraud department. We've reviewed your account and found several suspicious transactions. We're reversing all charges pending the police investigation. How much? Approximately $34,000 in charges over the past 6 months alone. $34,000. Money I thought we'd spent on legitimate expenses. After hanging up, I looked at Dashiell. Did you have any idea how deep this went? No, I thought we were just bad with money. I thought the stress was normal for newlyweds. They gaslit us into thinking we were financial failures while they were stealing everything we earned. The officer's radio crackled. Detective Morrison, we have additional victims coming forward. The story's been picked up by local news. Local news? Someone posted video of the airport confrontation online. It's gone viral. Other people are recognizing the suspects and calling in their own experiences. I felt simultaneously vindicated and horrified. Our private nightmare was now public entertainment. Is that good or bad? I asked. For the case? Very good. More victims means stronger charges and more evidence of a pattern. For you personally? Well, that depends on how you feel about publicity. My phone started buzzing with notifications. Missed calls, text messages, social media alerts. One text stood out, from my college roommate. Holy shit, is that you on the news? Are you okay? I hadn't even realized there were news cameras at the airport. I need to call in sick tomorrow, I told Dashiell, and probably for the rest of the week. My boss is going to ask questions. Tell him your parents were arrested for stealing over $100,000 from us. I'm sure he'll understand. Dashiell's face crumpled. This is really happening. Yeah, it is. The officer handed me a business card. Call me if they contact you directly, or if you remember anything else that might be relevant to the case. Don't let them guilt you into dropping charges. I won't. And get a good lawyer. You'll need help untangling all the financial mess they created. After she left, Dashiell and I sat alone in the airport waiting area. Our anniversary trip was obviously canceled. Our marriage was hanging by a thread. Our financial life was in ruins. But for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe. I'm sorry, Dashiell said quietly. I know. I'm ashamed of how I handled everything. You should be. Is there any way to fix this? Us, I mean. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd married, who'd let his parents destroy our life because confronting them was too scary. I don't know, maybe. But it would require you to completely change who you are. I want to try. Trying isn't enough anymore. You'd have to prove it, every day, for however long it takes me to trust you again. How long is that? I don't know. Maybe never. He nodded, accepting that reality. We took a taxi home in silence. The house felt different now, contaminated by the knowledge of what had been done to us here. All those papers I'd signed at this kitchen table, all those conversations about money and responsibility and family obligations, it had all been lies. I went straight to our home office and pulled out every financial document we had. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements, tax returns, everything. What are you doing? Dashiell asked, figuring out how deep this goes. I spread papers across the dining room table, creating timelines and cross-referencing charges. The pattern was clear once I knew what to look for. Every time we'd gotten ahead financially, a new family emergency would appear. Your father's medical bills, your mother's car trouble, the roof at the family cabin that needed urgent repairs, all of it fake. All of it designed to keep us broke and dependent. Look at this, I said, pointing to bank statements. Every time our savings hit a certain amount, they'd manufacture a crisis. Dashiell studied the papers. Oh my God. They were monitoring our accounts. They had access, remember? They could see our balance in real time. They never wanted us to be independent. No, they wanted us desperate enough to accept their help, which always came with strings. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Ms. Morrison? This is Channel 7 News. We'd like to interview you about the airport fraud case. I hung up without answering. Then it rang again. Different number. Whitney Morrison? This is the Tribune. Can we ask you a few questions? I turned off my phone. This is insane, I said to Dashiell. We're going to be tabloid stories. Maybe that's not entirely bad, if it helps catch them and prevents them from doing this to other people. It was the first sensible thing he'd said all day. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. Every shadow looked like someone trying to break in. The house didn't feel safe anymore. Around 3 a.m., I got up and checked all the locks, changed the alarm code, made sure all the windows were secure. Dashiell found me in the kitchen, going through mail we'd ignored for weeks. Can't sleep either? Look at this, I said, holding up an envelope. Pre-approved credit card offer. In my name, postmarked yesterday. So they're still trying to open accounts in my name, even from jail. I ripped open the envelope. Inside was a completed credit card application with my information filled in, my signature forged at the bottom. They mailed this before they were arrested. I realized there might be more. We spent the next 2 hours going through every piece of mail from the past month. We found 3 more credit applications, a loan pre-approval, and something from an investment company about a retirement account I'd never opened. I'm calling the detective, I said. It's 3 in the morning. I don't care, Detective Morrison answered on the second ring. This is getting worse, isn't it? They're still trying to open accounts. We found applications they mailed before being arrested. Bring everything to the station tomorrow. We'll add it to the evidence. How many other people are involved in this? As of tonight, we have 12 confirmed victims. The total amount stolen is approaching $500,000. $500,000? From family and friends. The district attorney is treating this as organized crime now, she continued. RICO charges are possible. What does that mean? Much longer prison sentences. 20 years minimum if convicted. After hanging up, I looked at Dashiell. Your parents are looking at 20 years in prison. Good, he said, surprising me. Good? They destroyed so many people. Not just financially, but look what they did to us. To our marriage, to my relationship with my sister. He was right. The money was just the beginning. They'd poisoned every relationship they touched with their lies and manipulation. I keep thinking about all the times I defended them to you, he said. All the times I made you feel crazy for questioning their motives. You gaslit me just as much as they did. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything. We sat in silence, surrounded by evidence of our financial destruction. What happens now? He asked. Now we rebuild, starting with separate bank accounts. Separate accounts? I can't trust you with my money. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The words hurt him. I could see it, but I didn't care anymore. I'm also talking to a divorce attorney tomorrow. Whitney, please. I'm not filing tomorrow. I'm just exploring my options. You should probably do the same. The next morning brought a media circus. News vans lined our street. Reporters knocked on our door every few minutes. Neighbors gathered in clusters, pointing and whispering. My phone had 47 missed calls and 134 unread messages. I can't go to work like this, I said. Me either. We were prisoners in our own home, hiding from cameras and questions. Around noon, my sister called. The story is everywhere, she said. It's on national news now. Great. Actually, it might be good. I've gotten calls from 3 people who think the same thing happened to them with different family members. You've started something. I didn't mean to start anything. I just wanted them to stop stealing from us. Sometimes that's how change begins. By one person saying enough. After we hung up, I realized she was right. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about a pattern of abuse that happened more often than anyone wanted to admit. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see it was Detective Morrison. I have updates, she said when I let her in. How many victims now? 23 confirmed, but we think there are more. The total amount is over $800,000. $800,000. Nearly $1 million stolen from people who trusted them. We've also discovered they have property in 3 different states, luxury cars and offshore accounts. This was much bigger than a family scam. Offshore accounts? Cayman Islands and Switzerland. They've been hiding money for years. I sat down hard. These weren't desperate people making poor choices. These were sophisticated criminals running a long-term operation. There's more, the detective continued. We found evidence they were planning to disappear permanently. The trip to Monaco was just the first step. They had documents for new identities waiting there. New identities? They were never planning to pay anyone back. They were going to vanish with everything they stole. The scope of the betrayal was staggering. Not only had they robbed us, they'd planned to abandon us entirely. What about bail? Dashiell asked. Denied. They're considered flight risks and the charges are too serious. They'll remain in custody until trial. How long until trial? 6 months, possibly longer. Cases this complex take time to build properly. After the detective left, I looked at Dashiell. They were going to disappear. Without ever telling us the truth about the debts. We would have spent years paying for things that were never ours. Lost our house, destroyed our credit, all while they were living it up in Europe. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. That afternoon, I finally answered my phone when my boss called. Whitney, I saw the news. Are you all right? Physically, yes. Financially and emotionally, not so much. Take whatever time you need. Your job will be here when you're ready. Thank you. And Whitney, what you did took courage. A lot of people would have just accepted it and tried to pay them back. After hanging up, I realized he was right. I had been brave. For the first time in my marriage, I'd stood up for myself despite the consequences. The consequences turned out to be worth it. Over the next few days, more victims came forward. The story grew. A victims' rights group contacted me about representing everyone in a class action lawsuit to recover damages. Even if they go to prison, the attorney explained, they still have assets that can be seized and liquidated. The money they stole is sitting in accounts and tied up in property. We can get most of it back. How much? Based on what we've discovered so far, probably 80% of what was stolen, maybe more. For the first time since this started, I felt hope. There's something else, she continued. Several major news outlets want to interview you. There's talk of a book deal, maybe a documentary. I just want my life back. This is your life now. Like it or not, you've become the face of family financial abuse. You can use that platform to help other people. I'd never thought of myself as an advocate or activist. I'd just been trying to survive my in-laws. But maybe that was exactly what qualified me for this. What would I have to do? Tell your story, show people what this kind of abuse looks like, help them recognize the warning signs. That evening, I talked it over with Dashel. If you do this, he said, our marriage will be even more public than it already is. Are you worried about that? I'm worried about you. This level of attention can be overwhelming. More overwhelming than being stolen from for 3 years? Fair point. I'd made my decision. 2 weeks later, I sat across from a national television interviewer, telling my story to millions of people. What would you say to someone who suspects their family members are financially abusing them? She asked. Trust your instincts, I said. If something feels wrong, investigate it. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself, even if they're family. What about forgiveness? These were your husband's parents. Forgiveness doesn't mean allowing abuse to continue. You can forgive someone and still hold them accountable for their actions. The interview aired the following week. My phone exploded with messages from people sharing their own stories of family financial abuse. One message stood out. My brother did the same thing to me for 5 years. I thought I was crazy. Watching your story gave me the courage to file my own police report. Thank you. Another. My mother-in-law has been doing this to us. I'm calling a lawyer tomorrow. And another. I'm a prosecutor in Texas. We just opened an investigation into a similar case after seeing your interview. You've started something important. I hadn't just exposed my in-laws. I'd exposed a pattern of abuse that happened everywhere, in families that looked normal from the outside. The book deal came through 2 months later. The publisher wanted me to write about family financial abuse, how to recognize it, how to protect yourself, how to recover. This could help a lot of people, my editor said, and the advance will help you rebuild financially. The advance was enough to pay off most of the remaining fraudulent debt and put us back on solid ground. The trial was scheduled for 8 months away. In the meantime, I had work to do. I started a support group for victims of family financial abuse. We met weekly in a community center conference room, sharing stories and resources. The first meeting had 3 people. By the end of the month, we had 25 regular attendees. It's not just the money, one woman said during a meeting. It's the way they make you doubt your own reality. They make you feel guilty for questioning them, another added. Like wanting to see receipts makes you a bad family member. The hardest part is accepting that people you love are capable of this, said a man whose father had stolen his entire college fund. You want to believe their explanations. These conversations helped me understand what had happened to me. The financial theft was just one part of a comprehensive system of manipulation and control. 6 months after the arrest, I got a call from Detective Morrison. They want to make a deal, she said. What kind of deal? Guilty pleas in exchange for reduced sentences. They're offering to cooperate fully in recovering assets and providing information about other potential victims. What would the sentences be? Probably 10 to 15 years instead of 20 to life. I was quiet, thinking. What do you think? She asked. I think victims should have a say in plea deals. I agree. That's why I'm calling you first. Can I talk to the other victims? That's exactly what the prosecutor wants. A meeting with all the confirmed victims to discuss the offer. The meeting was held in the courthouse conference room. 28 people whose lives had been destroyed by 2 people they trusted. The prosecutor laid out the deal. Guilty pleas, full restitution, cooperation with ongoing investigations, and 12-year sentences. Without this deal, she explained, they could fight the charges for years. Even if we win at trial, appeals could drag on indefinitely. This guarantees they go to prison and that you get your money back. An older man raised his hand. What if there are more victims we don't know about? They've agreed to provide information about anyone else they may have defrauded. If we discover additional victims, the deal could be modified. A woman in the back spoke up. 12 years doesn't seem like enough for what they did to all of us. Murmurs of agreement around the room. I understand that feeling, the prosecutor said. But consider this. They're both in their 60s. 12 years is essentially a life sentence for people their age. What about restitution? I asked. Full restitution to all victims, plus interest and penalties. We estimate total recovery at about 90% of what was stolen. That would mean I'd get back almost everything they'd taken from us. I need to think about it, I said. So did everyone else. That night, I discussed it with Dashel. What do you think? I asked. I think 12 years is fair if it means getting the money back and closing this chapter. Even though they're your parents? They're not my parents. Not anymore. Parents don't do what they did. It was the strongest statement he'd made since this began. I want to take the deal, I decided. The next day, I called the prosecutor. I'm in favor of accepting the plea bargain. Good. I'll let you know when the others decide. 2 days later, she called back. All victims have agreed to accept the deal. The hearing is scheduled for next Friday. The plea hearing was surreal. Seeing my former in-laws in orange jumpsuits handcuffed, admitting their guilt in open court. How do you plead to the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud? The judge asked. Guilty, Beatrice whispered. Guilty? Reginald echoed. The judge accepted their pleas and scheduled sentencing for the following month. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us again. "How do you feel about the guilty pleas?" one asked. "Relieved," I said. "Justice has been served, and now we can all move forward." Any message for other families dealing with similar situations? Yes. Trust your instincts, seek help, and remember that family doesn't excuse criminal behavior. That night, for the first time in months, I slept through the night without anxiety dreams. The sentencing hearing was packed. Each victim had the opportunity to give a victim impact statement. I'd prepared mine carefully. Your Honors, the defendants didn't just steal money from us. They stole our sense of security, our ability to trust, and our peace of mind. They used our love and respect for family against us, weaponizing relationships to hide their crimes. For 3 years, I thought I was failing as a wife and daughter-in-law. I thought our financial struggles were my fault. They gaslit me into believing that their theft was my inadequacy. The damage goes beyond dollars. They cost me 3 years of my life, nearly destroyed my marriage, and left me with trauma that I'm still working through in therapy. But I want them to know that they failed in their ultimate goal. They didn't break me. Instead, they awakened something in me that will help other people avoid becoming victims. I hope their time in prison gives them the opportunity to reflect on the harm they've caused and to find genuine remorse, not for the crimes, they've admitted those, but for the betrayal of trust that made those crimes possible. When I finished, I felt lighter somehow, like I'd finally said everything I needed to say. The judge sentenced them each to 12 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 8 years. The court finds that this was a sophisticated, long-term criminal enterprise that targeted the most vulnerable victims, family members who trusted the defendants implicitly, the judge said. The sentences reflect both the seriousness of the crimes and the defendants' willingness to cooperate in making restitution. As they were led away, Beatrice looked at me one last time. There was something in her eyes that might have been apology, or it might have been hatred. I didn't care anymore. Outside the courthouse, I was surrounded by other victims, all of us finally getting closure. "What's next for you?" someone asked. "Rebuilding," I said, "and helping other people do the same." The restitution money came through 3 months later, almost $95,000. Everything they'd stolen from us, plus interest and penalties. I used part of it to pay off our remaining legitimate debts. The rest went into a savings account that only I controlled. My book was published 8 months later. Stolen Trust, A Family's Fight Against Financial Abuse, became a bestseller and was optioned for a documentary. More importantly, it started conversations. Support groups formed in dozens of cities. Legislation was introduced in several states to strengthen protections against family financial abuse. I testified before Congress about the need for better oversight of family financial arrangements and stronger penalties for identity theft within families. The current system assumes that family members act in good faith, I told the committee. But predators know that family ties can be exploited. We need laws that recognize this reality. The bill I supported passed 6 months later. As for my marriage with Dashel, that took longer to rebuild. We went through months of couples therapy, working through years of enabling and resentment. "I need you to understand that you were complicit," our therapist said to him during one session. "Not in the criminal acts, but in the emotional manipulation that made them possible." "I know," he said. "I've been thinking about it constantly. What have you concluded?" "That I was more afraid of disappointing my parents than of failing my wife. And now? Now I understand that my real family is Whitney. Everything else is secondary. It was progress, but trust doesn't rebuild overnight. I kept our separate bank accounts for 2 years. I made all financial decisions independently. I required proof and documentation for every expense. Slowly, very slowly, he proved that he'd changed. When his sister called crying because she'd been evicted, another sob story designed to manipulate money out of us, Dashel didn't even hesitate. "I'm sorry that happened to you, but we can't help financially," he told her. "If you need emotional support or advice, I'm here. But no money." She hung up on him. "How do you feel about that?" I asked. "Sad, but not guilty. There's a difference now." There was. 3 years after the arrests, we renewed our wedding vows in a small ceremony with just our real friends and my family. No one from his side attended, but that was fine with both of us. "I promise to put our marriage first," he said in his vows, "to protect you from anyone who tries to harm us, regardless of their relationship to me. I promise to trust you again," I said in mine, "and to give you the chance to prove you've changed. We're still working on it. Some days are harder than others. But we're building something real now, something based on honesty instead of manipulation." The support group I started has helped over 300 people in the past 4 years. We have a 24-hour hotline, legal referrals, and financial counseling services. Last month, a young woman called, crying. "My mother-in-law is doing exactly what you described in your book," she said, "taking out credit cards in my name, making me think I owe her money for help she gave us." "What do you want to do about it?" I asked. "I want to fight back, but I'm scared." "Being scared is normal. Being brave means doing it anyway. Will you help me?" "That's why I'm here. It's become my life's work helping people recognize and escape family financial abuse. The irony isn't lost on me. The worst thing that ever happened to me became the most meaningful thing I've ever done." Beatrice and Reginald are now 6 years into their sentences. I occasionally get updates from their victims' rights coordinator. They've both developed health problems in prison. Beatrice has diabetes. Reginald had a mild heart attack last year. Part of me feels sad about that. They're still human beings, still the people who raised the man I love. But mostly, I feel relief knowing they can't hurt anyone else. Last week, I got a letter from Beatrice. Her first communication since the arrest. "Whitney, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this before I die," which my doctors say could happen anytime. "What we did was wrong. I've had 6 years to think about it, and I can't pretend we were just helping family anymore. We got addicted to the lifestyle your money provided. At first, it was just borrowing against future gifts we planned to give you, but then it became a way to live beyond our means without admitting we were broke. I know this doesn't excuse anything. I know saying sorry doesn't give you back the years we stole from your marriage or the stress we caused. But I want you to know that seeing what we did to you and Dashiell is the worst thing about being in here. Worse than the prison itself. You deserved better from us. You deserved a family that supported your marriage instead of destroying it. I hope you can forgive us someday. Not for our sake, but for yours. Carrying anger is heavy. I'm proud of what you've built from the wreckage we caused. You turned our worst into your best. Please take care of Dashiell. He's a good man who made bad choices because of how we raised him, but he's different now. I can see it in his letters. With regret and respect, Beatrice, I read the letter 3 times, then put it in my desk drawer. I'm not ready to forgive them yet. Maybe I never will be. But I understand now that forgiveness is separate from justice. They're paying the price for their crimes. Whether I forgive them is about my healing, not their punishment. For now, I'm focused on moving forward. This month marks the 5th anniversary of that day in the airport when everything changed. 5 years since I decided to stop being a victim and start being a survivor. Tomorrow, we're flying to Paris. The trip we never took because of their scam. We saved up and planned it ourselves this time, with no hidden costs or secret agendas. Just 2 people who've learned to build a marriage on truth instead of lies. Taking the honeymoon we should have had years ago. The plane tickets are in my name only. The hotel is booked with my credit card. The money came from my separate account that nobody else controls. I'm finally free, and that freedom is worth more than any amount they could have stolen.